Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for tuning in today. And in today's video, I'm going to kind of lay out for you guys. Uh, I'm going to make a connection. And again, somebody in one of my commenters, actually, one of my subscribers, actually helped me with this. And I think it's really relevant to everything that's happened. I mean, think about the week. In the past 7 days, we've had plane crashes. I mean, basically, since Christmas, we had two plane crashes. We had multiple shootings. We had multiple car attacks. And I'm just going to show you how this all seems to be tied together. And we're going to also look forward to the Super Bowl because all this connects to the Super Bowl that's coming up. Of course, the Super Bowl is one of the biggest energy parts of the year, right? Lots of energy goes into the Super Bowl. So we're gonna look into that, okay? But the first thing I want to talk about here, and then we're going to talk about the show Lost, which is about plane crashes. And big shout out to Derek from Gematria 85 on YouTube for helping me with those connections. But yeah, let's jump into it, guys. So I want to give a shout out to Jover355, one of my commenters. He left this comment, and I'm basically going to cover the first part of this comment that he referenced, and I'm going to show you guys how this flight 2216 that just crashed in Korea, right after the new president um, became president, is connected to what happened yesterday, and also is connected to the Super Bowl. So the main point about this connection is the number 2216. Okay. So this was the flight number of the. This is important, guys. When the flight numbers are, they're important. They're coded. They're huge. Okay. So the fact that this flight number was 2216 is bigger than we might realize. Okay. So, and what Jover, who I just showed you, what he pointed out is what connects this 2216. And remember, yesterday we just had a car attack or a truck attack. Again, it's not really a car attacking, but again, that's what they call it, right? We had that attack in New Orleans, and the reason that's important is because the Super Bowl this year is going to be in New Orleans, okay? And the attack yesterday also came on the same day of a college football game that was supposed to take place in the same stadium, I believe, the Sugar Bowl, right? So the college football game that was supposed to happen yesterday with the Sugar Bowl, it was supposed to happen in Caesars Superdome. However, it got postponed to today. And the Super Bowl that's coming up on February 9th for the NFL, the professional football. Again, yesterday was college football. February 9th is the professional football Super Bowl, right? It's going to be taking place also in the same arena, Caesar's Superdome. Well, Caesar should make you think of Julius Caesar, Trump, right? We had a Trump incident this year where he was connected to Caesar, the plot to take out Caesar, okay? So there is a whole Caesar connection here, but the main point I want to make is the connection between this upcoming Super Bowl, which is going to be in Caesar's Superdome, and the airplane crash of Flight 2216. So let's just give it a quick look. So if we take a look and we see when the construction began, the construction began on August 11th or August 12th, 1971. Okay, so um, August 12th, 1971. That was when the construction of the Caesars Superdome began, where the Super Bowl is going to take place, right? And just like 41 days before the Super Bowl, we had the plane crash 2216. Okay. Now, if you measure from the opening breaking ground of the Caesars Superdome on August 12th, 1971, to the Super Bowl, which will be held in that stadium, and you look at the amount of days, it's this many days, right? But this is an important number here because if you click on it, you're going to see this is the 2216 prime number. Okay, so think about that, guys. The stadium that's going to hold the Super Bowl this year the Super Bowl is going to be 2216 prime days after it broke ground. Okay, and this takes us back to the Jeju Air Flight 2216, which crashed just 41 days before the Super Bowl coming up, okay? So, again, I think that's pretty mind-blowing. I think it's telling us something. There's probably more to connect here. But I want to use one of my fellow decoder friends, Sean Desaad, Widow's Son on YouTube. He has a method where he takes the date, he takes a number and he makes it into a date. So in this case, we're going to take the number 2216 and we're going to turn it into the date 2 February 2nd, 2016, okay? So 2216. So let's do that. Again, we're going to go to the year 2016 and we're going to go to 22, right? So there's your 2216, like the flight, right? And we're going to go to the Super Bowl. I just told you that from the construction starting on the Superdome to the Super Bowl in the Superdome this year is 2216 prime, like the plane crash number. But if we go from the date 2216 to the Super Bowl, you're going to get exactly 9 years, 0 months, and 7 days. And how does this tie into our plane crash? Well, Flight 2216 crashed, if I can find it here. What time did it crash, guys? It crashed at 9:07, okay? And don't forget, this 9:07 was huge, guys. So think about that. 2216 crashes at 9:07. If you go from the date 2216, right? 2216 to the date of the Super Bowl, which I just told you was connected to the 2216, it's 9:07. This is the crash time of flight 2216. And don't forget, this 9:07 was important because from the start, right, from the last crash, the last air incident of the Jeju Airlines to the crash on the 29th was exactly 907 weeks, and it crashed at 9:07. And don't forget, the crash on 12/29 was also 907 days after the Georgia Guidestones went down. So the fact that if you go from the day 2216, you get 9 months, 0 days, and 0 months, 7 days, which is 907. This takes us right back to the time of the plane crash. All right. So I think that's pretty evident that this all leads up to the Super Bowl. It's all connecting to the Super Bowl, right? Because I just showed you that from the Caesars Dome opening to the Super Bowl where the game is held, it's going to be the 2216 prime. From the date 2216 to the Super Bowl is 9:07, and that's the time that flight 2216 crashed, okay? So that's basically what I wanted to share so far about this 2216, but there's probably more to find. But I think, and don't forget, the 2216 is a Venus number. We've talked about that. If you guys haven't seen my prior decodes, go back and watch them. But there's way more to this number, but that's the connection between 2216 and the Super Bowl coming up, right? And of course, this connects to Trump, who had his Caesar moment on July 13th this year. You know what I mean by that. And it's Caesar Superdome, right? And Caesar Superdome, if you type it in, you're going to see that Caesar's Superdome equals 97. Well, there's your 907, like the time of 907, right? Where the plane crashed at. Well, what's up with this 97? Well, 97 is the gematria of plane crash, right? 97. So there you go again. Yeah, plane crash equaling 97, Caesar's Superdome 97. And again, I'm making this connection from 2216 to the Super Bowl is 907, or you could say without the months, it's 9 years, 7 days, right? 97. Now 97 is the 25th prime number, right? And we just started the year 2025 with a truck ramming in the city where the Superdome is located, right? The year 2025, 97 is the 25th prime number. So it all connects, guys. It all connects to the Super Bowl. And yeah, so big shout out. Make sure you guys go. Big shout out once again to this subscriber, Jover3355. Thank you guys so much for being so helpful with your numbers. And don't forget to go back and watch my video from yesterday, guys. I talked about all the things that happened yesterday. And just to add this into the video, you'll see that in my community section, I posted that yesterday we had 3 news stories, right? We had the New Orleans truck attack, we had the Cybertruck explode in Las Vegas, and we also had a shooting in Montenegro, the country. And Montenegro means Black Mountain. One of my subscribers also told me that. And don't forget, yesterday there was a blackout still in Puerto Rico. And a mountain is a high place, like Satan falls from a high place. But I'm not going to get into all that. But we had 3 stories yesterday: New Orleans truck attack, Cybertruck explodes in Vegas, and 10 people killed in a shooting in Montenegro. Well, if you think your news is random, well, look at this. Montenegro just happens to equal New Orleans, which equals Cybertruck in almost all ciphers. So the 3 big news stories yesterday: the shooting in Montenegro, the truck attack in New Orleans, and the Cybertruck in Vegas, all have almost perfect match gematria. And don't forget, the last Super Bowl, since we're talking about Vegas here, the last Super Bowl last year, this in 2024, was in Las Vegas, and now this year it's going to be in New Orleans. And we had 2 events yesterday, one in New Orleans, one in Las Vegas, both the Super Bowl locations. Okay, so just how crazy that is, right? And so now I'm just going to make some connections here. Actually, I don't know if I'm going to finish this in this video, guys, but I'm in my maybe in my next video, I'm going to make some connections between this show Lost and this kid that's in the show named Aaron Littleton and this flight, all right? And maybe we could do it, you know, fast here in this video. Yeah, let's just do it. Let's just do it, guys. So anyway, Lost is the show about a plane crash, right? And I told you guys a few days before Christmas, before we had all these plane crashes, God put it on my heart to start watching this show about a plane crash. Now, one of the main characters I want to focus on here from the show is the only kid that's born on the island. So all these people, they crash in a plane and they land on an island. And out of all the survivors of the plane, the only person born on the island, because when they crash, his mother's pregnant with him. The only kid that's born is this guy, and in the show, his name is Aaron Littleton. Okay, now I'm going to show you guys how he's connected to how Lost and how Aaron Littleton are connected to this plane crash. So let's jump into it real fast. So, anyways, in the show, Oceanic Airlines 815 crashes on September 22nd, 2004, right, carrying 324 passengers, right? Now, from the first episode and the crash date, because the crash date is also the same date as the first episode, 9/22/2004. That was Lost's first episode and the crash date. If you go from that day to the opening of the airline that just crashed, Jeju Air, it's 125 days. And Jeju Air opened or was founded on the 125 date, 125. 125 days before that, the show about a plane crash released, right? And in Gematria, airplane crash equals 125. So does the word aviation. Okay. So this is the main thing you guys need to know going forward, because I'm probably going to be talking about this show a lot. Okay. Why is this show so important? Well, it's connected specifically to this Jeju Air. I mean, how perfect it is that this plane crash show happened exactly 125 days before 125, which was the founding of the airline that just crashed. Okay. And airplane crash has the same gematria. So that's the first thing. Now, on the clock, so we're going to do some clock conversions here. On the clock, 1 hour and 25 minutes, like 125, converts to 85 minutes. Okay. And this is important because, again, the airline Jeju was founded on 125. Well, the day of the airplane crash of Jeju, was 12, 29, 24. If you add the numbers up, 12, 29, 20, 24, it equals 85. Again, 125 on the clock would convert to 85 minutes. The date the plane crashed was 85 date numerology, right? And the plane crashed in Korea, which also equals 85. It crashed in South Korea, but you can call it Korea, right? Korea also equals 85. Now, the enemy of South Korea, where this plane crashed, is North Korea. And what's the chances that North Korea happens to equal 125, like airplane crash? So anyway, the reason I'm talking about this is because the conversion from 1 hour 25 minutes equals 85 minutes, right? So 125 on the clock converts to 85, right? Well, the kid that I just showed you early in the decode, Aaron Littleton, the only kid born on the island in Lost, his name equals 85, guys. His name equals 85. Again, this is the conversion of 1 hour 25 to 85. The kid born on the island, Aaron Littleton equals 85. So does Korea. Well, the plane that crashed just recently was in Korea. Well, what if I told you that in the show actually has a prominent Korean woman and her husband who actually take care of this baby. So look at this. Here is the Korean woman's son holding Aaron. He's older here, but this is the little Aaron. So what are the chances of that? I'm connecting this kid and this show to the Korean crash, and in the show, Mr. Little Aaron is being held and taken care of for a short time by a Korean woman. And Korea equals 85 like Aaron Littleton. But it gets deeper because I just showed you that from the show starting to the opening of Jeju Air was 125 days. But if you go from the birth date in the show of Aaron Littleton, who was held by the Korean, to the opening of the Korean Airlines, it's 85 days. Again, that's the gematria of Aaron Littleton and Korea. And that is the conversion of 125 minutes to 85 minutes. And it's 125 days from the show starting to the founding of the airline, right? Whoops, sorry guys. 125 days from the show to the opening, and from the kid being born to the opening of the airline, it's 85 days. Again, how perfect. On top of that, if you measure this in months, from the kid's birth to the opening of the airline, it's 2 months, 24 days. Well, this airline crash would go on to happen. Again, this was way back many years ago, guys, 2004 and 2005. But the plane crash that's connected to this kid on Jeju Air would crash in 2024. And from this kid's birth to the opening of the airline, it's 2 to 4 days, 2 months, 24 days, which is like the year 224. And this plane crashes in the year 2024. Now, how is this kid completely connected to plane crashes and other connections? So I'm going to prove to you how this whole show is perfectly scripted around these numbers, right? So from the kid's birth to the very last episode of the show is 5 years, 203 days. Well, that's interesting because the show ended on 5/23, and from the kid's birth, the only kid to be born on the island in the show, it's 5/23 to the 5/23 last episode, okay? So you have that, and then you have this. From the day of his birth to the last episode of the show is 2029 days. So think of this as a year, right? The year 2029, which will be exactly 100 years after the crash of the Great Depression in 1929. But again, 2029 is like 2. If you get rid of the 0, it's like 229. From the kid's birth to the last episode is like 229. And the first episode of the show and the crash in the show started the show on 229. So from the kid's birth to the last episode is coded with the first episode, 229. But the year 2029 is also important because this is a year that's going to be coming up in a few years. But it's very important because from the kid's birth to the last episode of the show is 2029 days. Well, 2029 is a prime number. It's the 308th prime number. And in Gematria, plane crash equals 309. or 308, sorry. 308 prime is 2029. Plane crash equals 308. So from the one kid that's born on the island to the last episode, his birth to the last episode is the 308 prime days, which is the gematria of plane crash. And of course, this whole show is about a plane crash, right? So again, how perfect. On top of that, Aaron, his name, and big shout out to Gematria85, who's been talking about Aaron Rodgers, who plays for the Jets, and how he lost on the same day as the plane crash. And now Aaron is a direct match in all ciphers to crash, okay? Now, from his birth to the plane crash, Jeju Air plane crash, was 20 years, 1 month, and 29 days. Well, this is the numbers in the date 12, 1292. It's the same digits, guys, from his birth to the 1229 plane crash. You see it? 1229. I know it's not in the right order, but it's still the same digits, right? 1229. Now, I told you, again, big shout out to Gematria. He's been talking about Aaron Rodgers. This kid's name is Aaron Littleton. Aaron Rodgers plays for the Jets. The Jets crash. This show is about a plane crash. Jets crashing. Well, the same day that this plane crash happened, the Jeju Air, Aaron Rodgers was playing for the Jets, and he lost, like the show's called Lost. Now, here's how this is all tied to 9/11. Of course, the New York Jets are in New York, where 9/11 happened. And from 9/11 2001 to the start of this show with Aaron Littleton, like Aaron Rodgers, is 3 years, 12 days. 312, right? From the 9/11 to the start of Lost. And from Lost start to the Lost end was 2069 days, which is the 312 prime number. And look at the gematria of Aaron Charles Rodgers, this player who plays for the Jets. Jeju Air Flight 2216 crash, which is what we're tying this to, right? And a few days before the Jeju Air, we had the Azerbaijan Airlines crash, which also equals 312. So look how perfectly it was scripted. From 9/11 to Lost starting was 312, and from Lost starting to Lost ending was 312 prime. You see? And this is the gematria of Jeju Air Flight 2216 crash, all right? And the gematria of the guy who lost the same day who plays for the Jets, Aaron Charles Rodgers. On top of that, I told you guys that Trump got 312 votes, and on the day of the Azerbaijan airline crash, a few days before on Christmas, there was a football game that ended 31-12, 312, and this is a very rare score. I told you guys that in that stream I did. But there's only been 3 times ever in all of NFL history where the score's been 3-1-2, right? And this just happened on the same day of this plane crash. Azerbaijan Airlines 312. Trump got 312 votes. Kamala Harris got 226, which is airplane crash. And the same day that this crashed, you had a game 31-2, right? 3-1-2. And then you had this. You had the Jets who played the game on 9/11 2023 against the Bills, and the score was 22-16, right? Like the number of the plane crash. And then the day of the Juju airplane crash, the same game got played. The Jets, again, I told you, the Jets played the Bills on the day of the 2216 airplane crash, and on 9/11 2023 they played before, and the final score was the number of the Jeju Air plane crash. Okay, and again, the quarterback for the Jets got hurt that game. Aaron Charles Rodgers 312, Jeju Air flight 2216 crash equals 312 in the same cipher. So this is all perfect, guys. All perfect, right? And this is just an overview, again, because I'm going to be talking more about this stuff for sure. And I just wanted to put a video out covering the 2216, covering the Lost show and how it's connected to this kid, Aaron, who's born in the show, and how it's scripted to be a plane crash riddle. And many years in advance, this thing is playing out, right? So I think I'll end it there, guys. It's been a pretty long, pretty long one. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I appreciate you all, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.